As a Sufi Muslim, I'm very ruffled by the title of your book. Of all the titles that you likely had at your disposal, did you have to settle for the literal negation of Allahu Akbar?
Yes. I thought so.
Thank you for that question. Thank you. No, it's a very good question. I'm glad. I wanted to come back to it. Why?
Yeah. As I've said, I think that all religions are wrong in the same way, in that they privilege faith over reason, but they're not all equally bad in the same way all the time. I mean, if I'd been writing in the 1930s, I would certainly have said that the Roman Catholic Church was the most dangerous religion.
The brilliant and sharp-tongued Christopher Hitchens was one of the great atheists of his era. He had no problem deriding and making fun of all the religions out there. But later in his life, he had a particular place of criticism for Islam, which he claimed was the more dangerous of all the dangerous religions in the world. He wrote a book called God is Not Great, which is a bit of a play on the classic Islamic phrase, Allahu Akbar, God is great, and criticized in this clip for insulting Islam by using this title. Do you think he would back down from such a claim? Probably not. Here's the clip.
Can we do more? Yes?
Mr. Hitchens, you are likely the world's most charming, roguish, and enlightened atheist, and I love you for that. But as a Sufi Muslim, I'm very ruffled by the title of your book. Of all the titles that you likely had at your disposal, did you have to settle for the literal negation of Allahu Akbar?
Yes. I thought so.
Thank you for that question. Thank you. No, it's a very good question. I'm glad. I wanted to come back to it. Why?
Yeah. As I've said, I think that all religions are wrong in the same way, in that they privilege faith over reason, but they're not all equally bad in the same way all the time. I mean, if I'd been writing in the 1930s, I would certainly have said that the Roman Catholic Church was the most dangerous religion in the world because of its open alliance with fascism and anti-Semitism, which the damage from that our culture has never recovered from and never will. But at the moment, it's very clear to me that the most toxic form that religion takes is the Islamic form. The horrible idea of wanting to end up with Sharia, with a religion-governed state, a state of religious law, and that the best means of getting there is jihad, holy war, and that Muslims have a special right to feel aggrieved enough to demand this, I think is absolute obscene wickedness, and I think their religion is nonsense. And
in its
entirety. The idea of God speaks to some illiterate merchant warlord in Arabia, and he's able to write this down perfectly, and it contains the answers to all human. Don't waste my time. It's bullshit.
But you're saying.
Oh my God. This guy is crazy. But come on, Christopher, you could say that about all the religions. All the religions have their stories that, I mean, if you don't believe, then it's hard to believe that they happened. But more importantly, as far as pertaining to the world today, what is more crucial here is the fact that indeed the separation of church and state has occurred in Europe, but in Europe and in the Western world, but the separation of mosque and state, not so much. And that's why it is the greater problem at the moment. There's a much bigger will to proselytize in Islam. Christianity is a proselytizing religion as well. Judaism is not. Judaism is not seeking to convert members. Christianity and Islam are. But the thing with Christianity is that Christianity is on the decline in the Western world. There aren't that many fervent Christians who are going around trying to spread Christianity at the moment. Far less than in the past. You know, Spanish conquistadors would go to the Americas with an army and with an army of priests to convert the native population. Christianity isn't doing that, but more importantly, in the Christian countries, because you have that separation and because you have enshrined liberalism and individual rights, you are free to say, no, thank you. So they can urge you to embrace Jesus, Christian proselytizers, but if you don't, you're not going to be under any type of significant sanction or significant threat. But in Islam, the situation is a little bit different in the Middle East. If you saw, for instance, the massacres that took place in Syria once the Islamist leader took over there, Ahmad al-Shara, then there were these jihadists were running around southern Syria, massacring the Druze minority, humiliating them. There's been oppression of Christians and of Alawites ever since he took power, because that's what Islamists and jihadists do. They use force, threats of violence, in order to try to expand and to convert other populations when they have the superior force. They want to wipe out Israel as well. Israel needs to be taken over by Islam, Al-Aqsa, fighting for the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is an Islamic cause at the moment. And what about in Europe? Well, in Europe, they don't have the numbers or the force to do that. You cannot go into European society right now with guns and try to take things over. I mean, some terrorists do that, but it's kind of a lost cause. But what you can do is the stealth jihad or the silent jihad, which is to play the institutions in order to try to spread Islam within the confines of the law that those people are currently situated in. So you do dawah, you try to spread the religion, to convert. Many people now will witness, and I have several people who told me about this in the more Muslim areas of Britain where people try to convert them, building more mosques, having more presence in the public space. I've done videos about this. Burqas, niqabs, head covers in the public space, call to prayer, azan in the public space, public prayers, all right, in the street. So this is about the attempt to expand within the confines of what the system allows you in that given moment, which is not through direct violence necessarily, but through coercion and intimidation. So now you're at a point where you can't criticize the Prophet Muhammad the way Christopher Hitchens did. Very, very difficult to do. I mean, the French tried to do it. Charlie Hebdo cartoonists, they got killed. Theo van Gogh, he was a Dutch filmmaker who was critical of Islam. They killed him in the street. He was the grandson or the great-grandson of Vincent van Gogh, the famous artist. Danish cartoon crisis. Have you heard of that one? There's a bunch of cases like this. So these blocks on freedom of speech are already silently being put in place through intimidation. And then, of course, the desire to see these countries run not by laws of liberty and individualism with a significant degree of separation between the religion and the state, where people are free to practice individual religions. No, Sharia law. That's what a lot of these people want to implement. We saw it in Britain with this. Anjem Chowdhury was a preacher over there, an Islamic figure who said, we want Sharia law in Britain. I showed a video on my channel recently, a guy in Canada. There's going to be Sharia law in Canada. We're taking over demographically. We're immigrating. We're having more kids. You're not having kids. So some of these people are open about it, that that's what they want. They want to implement that law on the society. So the attempt, the fervor of a significant amount of people to spread the religion, to take over public spaces, and eventually to change the laws in the country for their needs is a real and present thing, that the more the demography changes, the more influence and power those groups will have. And that's what Christopher Hitchens was talking about over there in that lecture. And he dislikes all religions. And that making fun of the stories and the religions, well, you could do that to the other ones as well, because we don't have proof of any of these great miracles that happened in all the religions. And if you're a pure atheist, you're a pure atheist. But that golden age of atheism, by the way, is kind of on the down now, as people realize that when religion disappears, what's replacing it? Wokeism, mass migration, the interconnected world, that seems to fail. So maybe it is time to fall back a little bit for some people on religion, or at least a religious heritage of Christianity in Europe and in the West, to push back against their religious heritage, which has a lot more fervor in trying to expand and take over. That could be part of the solution, perhaps. So maybe Christopher Hitchens didn't have it all right after all. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.